Hi, thanks for tuning into Sweet Life. I'm Natasha, and today I am back with a recipe for my chili and chocolate ribs. I came up with this idea for ribs because I wanted to combine something that would be smoky and spicy with slight sweetness. And so I thought, when people make chili, traditionally they would combine like chili powder within the chili with a little bit of chocolate to balance it out. And so with that, you get the smoky and slight heat of chili powder, because at least in my opinion, I don't think that chili powder is super hot unless you use it in large quantities. And combined with chocolate, which also has like a kind of rich, husky flavor to it, I felt the two would balance each other out. So you get a hint of spice and heat from the chili powder, a bit of warmth from that, and then you also get like a nice, warm, rich, sweet flavor that's balanced out by this being dark chocolate. So the two of them combine for a really nice flavor. You get a bit of spice, you get a slight bitterness from the chocolate, but it finishes off with a slight bit of sweetness because it's not completely dark, right? There's a little hint of sweet, a little bit of sugar in the chocolate. And that combined with the rich fattiness of the pork, which has a bit of sweetness of its own, comes together for a really nice combination of flavor. Let's get into it. We're gonna get started on the ribs. I have it already seasoned with like basic seasoning, and so I meal prep. So what I do is when I buy meat, I clean it with vinegar and whatnot, soak it down, and then from there I just put basic seasoning on it. Seasoning salt or adobo, black pepper, and a bit of blended seasoning. So that's what I have here. And what I do with the meat is I put it into a zip top bag, put it into the freezer, label it with whatever meat it is, what I plan on making with it, and then I just pull it out when I'm ready to, like a day or so before I'm ready to make it, let it defrost in the fridge, and we're here and ready to go. So at this point, I just have basic seasoning on the ribs, but I'm going to add the rest of the spices to it. And I'm going to season it with some paprika. The paprika gives it some nice flavor, but it also gives it some good color. A bit of cumin, which I kind of think of with like Tex-Mex dishes, Indian food. Has like a nice smell to it, sort of herby, earthy smell to it. A little bit of chili powder. I'm not going to add the full amount now because I'm going to put a little bit in the barbecue sauce that I put together. But I also want it to kind of cook with the chili powder on it, but not too much. And I find chili powder, unlike say a cayenne pepper, chili powder I think it gives like a nice smoky flavor, but it's not necessarily spicy on its own. It gives like a nice warm smoky type flavor without like necessarily a lot of heat to it. And this is just a bit of onion powder. Some garlic powder, powdered mustard. And I'm going to rub this in. So basically creating a bit of a dry rub now. Just rubbing it into the meat. And I'm really focused on the fleshy side of the meat, but at the same time giving a little bit of attention to the more bony side of the meat, like the underside. But taking care to season all of it, but we really want to give good attention to the meat side because that's what you're going to actually be eating. Just rub it down really nicely. Make sure that you get that seasoning everywhere. It's okay if it clumps up. You can just take it and just make sure that you spread it all over the meat because we want it to be nicely seasoned. We don't want to have like some areas that are well seasoned and then other areas that don't have seasoning, right? We want it to be nice and well seasoned throughout so every bite that you take is flavorful. The ribs are just going to go onto a baking tray. Put the bone side down. And the baking tray, I've just lined with a little bit of foil and greased it with a little bit of canola oil. The foil really is just to make for easier cleanup, and the oil is to keep it from sticking. And I know when you go to a restaurant, like you can buy ribs by either the half slab or by the slab. But really, I feel like if you're like one person and you're meal prepping, I think this could be, well, depending on how much you eat, this could be enough for like a week of meal prepping, right? If you imagine you're going to eat just like 2 or so bones at a time, because I think like half a rack of ribs is actually quite a bit of meat. You combine this with like some sides and things like that, and it's great for like a week of meal prepping. If you're feeding more than one person, go ahead and add in a second rack, because I think like a few bones is more than enough for a generous portion. And this here, I'm just going to top with another piece of foil that I'll lightly grease so it doesn't stick to the top, and it's going to go into a 350-degree oven. You could just as easily do this on the grill, where at this point here we have our dry rub on it. You could put it onto the grill, cook it. That was originally my plan, but the weather outside is still a little bit chilly, and you can hear that I have a bit of a cold. So plan B was to just make it in the oven. But the steps are pretty much the same. You prep it to this point, you take it, put it onto the grill, and let it go from there. But this is going to go into the oven now. Alright, so now then, I've taken our ribs out of the oven. They just need a little bit more time to go, but I want to actually add some sauce to them. And I'm going to do something a little bit different for this sauce. So to start with, I have just a few squares of dark chocolate that I've softened, really melted in the microwave. So that's going to provide our sweet. It's going to give like a kind of rich texture as well. Okay. And we're going to balance that out with some tang, some acid. And that's going to come in the form of some ketchup. Because you think of it, a lot of barbecue sauces, the base is ketchup, or it's like a tomato-based barbecue sauce. A little bit of apple cider vinegar. And you might be thinking, chocolate in like a savory dish? And actually, yeah, because some chili dishes actually, because they're tomato-based, to kind of cut some of that acid and balance it out, they'll add a few squares of chocolate, or a little bit of chocolate, but not like milk chocolate or something like that, more of a dark chocolate. And it helps to balance out the flavors. We're going to add a little bit of heat in the form of some chili powder. And so we did add chili powder to the rub that we put together, so we don't want to add too much here. We'll put it in, give it a little taste, see where we are, and then from there can determine if we want to add some more. And then I am going to add just a little bit of Kinder's Honey Hot barbecue sauce. I just like the flavor that it has. It's not overly sweet. It's not very spicy either. It just has like a nice flavor to it. And that's something that I like to do sometimes. I'll go to the store, I'll look to see what sauces or spice mixes they might have. Especially with sauces, I'll get it and then I'll add like a few little things of my own to kind of punch up the flavor. I think we could use a bit more of the chili powder, some more of the ketchup. It's actually quite good. It's quite good. I'm going to put in a little bit more apple cider vinegar. I want like a little bit more tang to it. And so it's like you get a little bit of cocoa flavor from the chocolate because it's like a dark chocolate. It's not like very, very sweet. And that's great. That little bit of vinegar brightened up the flavor of everything else, got everything into balance. Tastes really good. The flavors together balance out really nicely. So we're good to go. I'm just going to slather this on. And then it's like you get that little bit of heat at the back of your throat. There's like a delay. So don't put too much of the chili powder. So now, on to our ribs. So just our slapping ribs. And what I'm going to do now is just cut between the bones. So piece that off. And give it a little taste. The meat is nice and tender. You get a good little mix of savory. You taste something that's like, what's that? And it's the chocolate. Meat is really nice and tender. And the combination of flavors are really, really nice. That's that good stuff.
Thanks for tuning in. To ensure you don't miss any episodes, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell, and check out my cooking at home playlist. Go ahead and click that thumbs up button if you like what you saw, and go ahead and share it on social media.